نبدأ بحول الله جلسة ما بعد الظهر، وهي كما ورد في البرنامج المسطر عبارة عن ورشة سيديرها وييسرها السيد دييغو كريشان، وستكون باللغة الإنجليزية. أذكركم بأن الترجمة الفورية متوفرة إلى اللغة العربية، والسيد دييغو سيقدم أولاً عرضاً مصوراً، تليه بعد ذلك حصة مناقشة. وحقيقة نحن نريد أن نركز على حصة المناقشة لأن فعلاً هي حصة تفاعلية، وأنا أدعوكم جميعاً مهما كانت مشاربكم ومهما كانت اهتماماتكم المهنية أن تطرحوا فعلاً الأسئلة، لأنه من خلال أسئلتكم ربما قد نأتي بأفكار أخرى أكثر مما ربما سيرد في عرض السيد كريشان. شكراً لكم.
Okay, thank you for staying here after lunch. It's not easy for me to deliver a workshop on these things after lunch, so please don't fall asleep. If you do like this, so I don't see you. And so today, as Rashid said, I'm talking about a little bit more about machine translation, technology in general. We'll be touching on computer-aided translation tools, CAT tools, and I will also introduce you to generative AI, in case you don't know what it's all about. Let's start. I know we have 30 minutes more or less for the presentation itself, and then Q&A. But in case I'm saying something you don't understand or you have comments on, please interrupt me. I'm more than happy to take any questions during the presentation itself. I just need to go back and get my headset for translation in case you ask a question in Arabic. I'll be trying to speak as slowly as possible for the interpreters. Thank you again, guys there. So let's start. This is who I am. You know who I am by now, so I'll skip this one. Again, we'll be talking about CAT tools, computer-aided translation tools, again for the interpreters, machine translation, and generative AI. Generative AI is something we are testing right now in our company. I believe it will be the next step in language technology. Very important to know what it's all about. I'll be talking about it later. You know CAT tools. Probably you are acquainted with some of them. Oh, I should remember that I have a clicker. Sorry. No, I just forgot to use it. It's working.
This is forward, this is backward.
Yeah, so this is where I should be. These are some of the CAT tools on the market. Hopefully you recognize some of them. As you know, the basic features of CAT tools are the translation memory, which is basically a database that stores previous translation and allow you to reuse what you have translated before. And one of the things that I like to say about translation memories is that they give you the opportunity to also share them with your fellow translators, even with your customers. Terminology management is, of course, one of the other features that's very important for translation, and it helps you create and manage glossaries. I believe, again, this is one of the most important features for translation memory. All of these tools that you can see here have a different approach to quality assurance, but all of them have quality assurance features as well that you can use, of course, to deliver better results. You can check formatting, punctuation, consistency. You can even check compliance with the style guide. Again, a very important one. All of them allow you to customize your QA checks, so your quality assurance checks. What I want to add on these tools is some of them are desktop tools, which means that you usually buy a license, you install them on your desktop, on your computer, and that's it. Some of them that you can see here, for instance, MarkCat or MemSource or MateCat. MemSource, by the way, has been renamed into Phrase now. They are online, web-based, which means that you don't need to buy a license. Most of the times, you will receive the projects directly from your customer. And all you have to do is accepting the project, edit the translation or translate from scratch, of course, do your quality assurance, and we deliver. There are pros and cons on the two, let's say, formats. Desktop is usually more stable, doesn't depend on internet connection. This is something I hear a lot from translators, while of course the online one depends on internet connection, not always ideal, but then they have additional features such as sharing projects, automating delivery of files, and many other things. What I like the best of online tools is their collaboration features, meaning that you can work in a team of translators. And this is really important. And this is important for speed and quick delivery. It's important for consistency. If you work in a couple, for instance, or in a team of 3 translators, you can use the same terminology and maintain consistency, but you can also leverage on the translation that's been done by your colleague. And this is a really good feature, in my opinion. Again, this really summarizes what I just said. Basically, translation tools helps with quality, for what I just said, help you with speed and quantity, meaning that you can deliver quicker and you can translate more. They help you with flexibility as well. You don't need to get the files via email and then deliver in whatever format is asked from the customer. And of course, they help you with productivity. I want to add on this topic just that if you learn to use one of them, you can learn to use them all. I mean, they're all the same. There's no difference. It's just a fancy web interface rather than a fancy desktop interface. Some of them are easier to use, some of them are less easy to use, but the basic features are all the same. So if you're not using them, I strongly invite you to do so. As I said, there are different formats, different tools. This one that I'm showing here, now it shows, now it doesn't. Okay, this one, for instance, is one tool that doesn't need to be installed. It's web-based, it's free, and why is Market? I chose Market 5 years ago when I needed to work with students or people who hadn't used the CAT tool before. And again, the reason is because it's free. It has all the features that we've been discussing, terminology, translation memory. It does include machine translation as well. And it's online, no license attached to it. You can use it whenever you want. There's, of course, some premium features that you have to pay, but like the normal starting point where you just translate and receive projects is free. And I think there are other free tools, mostly desktop tools that are free, but they're much more basic than Market. I think I have a slide at the end with all the resources, and I'm not sure if it was decided or not that we can share the slides with the audience. I'd be happy to share mine so you have all the resources. Let's go on with machine translation. We've been talking this morning a lot about this topic. It's the mostly discussed topic, of course. This is a screenshot of 5 years ago, and it relates to you because it's in French, more than it relates to me. And when someone tried to translate a novel, a book of 1,800 pages with machine translation. Of course, this doesn't show anything about the quality, but it says more about the quantity and the speed. It's been translated in 12 hours. Again, it's from 5 years ago. I think now you can get it much quicker. It doesn't include any statistics about the quality and how much it takes to post-edit, if there was any post-editing. But this means that we are getting there, I think. I'm not even sure about the topic of this book. Probably it was more technical thing, not really a novel, not a romance and everything. But we are getting there. As we discussed this morning, there's a goal we need for translation due to localization, due to the willingness to for Arabic, for instance, to expand beyond borders. Machine translation, I think, really helps you bridge the language barriers. I said that this morning. I confirm it here. There are cost and quality implications, but I think if we want to really contribute to like break down language barriers, I think machine translation is something that we need to consider. It's a good starting point in many use cases. For many of them, as I said this morning, it's not the end. I mean, there will be a need for human post-editing, and this is what we're here for. But one of the things that machine translation tools offer right now is, for some use cases, they're always there. I mean, with machine translation, you can be sure for some use cases, for some content types, that your translation will be delivered without human checking in some cases, 24 hours a day. And this is not always possible with a human involved in the process. So basically, it makes your translation needs independent from human working schedules. I'm not sure you see all the statistics. This basically represents the quality that machine translation offers. It's dating 2020, so I think it's getting even better. And you can see that the quality offered by machine translation is really, really close to the human translation for these language combinations, which involve usually English, of course. It's always part of the game. I can say for English into Italian and vice versa, the quality is really probably 95% close to human translation in 95% of the use cases. Again, this is getting better. There are multiple studies on the quality. This is just one of them. So, getting deeper into machine translation and workflow, because it's important to understand where machine translation comes into play and when post-editors, so the linguists, where do they come into play? That's the classic, again, I did it again. That's the classic workflow that we apply in our company. For instance, we get the source text, or someone creates that, of course, can be user-generated. We can get it from a customer. There is always, well, not always, but in 50% of the cases, an editing of the source, because these systems, they work best when the source is written in a simpler way. They don't really manage to get the complexities of the source language in all cases. So sometimes what we need to do is fix the source to make it more digestible by the machine. My recent use case would be a collection of reviews. There's an Italian company who basically paid a dinner to all of their employees with only one request. They should write a review about that restaurant. And that review, the collection of those reviews would be published on a book. So it was more for internal marketing, human resource purposes. And you can well imagine that if any of us goes to a restaurant and has a great dinner, comes back and writes the review, there's no consistency in how the review is written. There's no good use of grammar and language most of the times. So what we are doing right now, and this is really current, like we're doing now, today, in the office, back in Italy, we are editing the source. Otherwise, we will never be able to translate it with machine translation. And we need to translate it with machine translation because we are talking now of more than 200,000 words in like a couple of weeks. So that's the only way. And so this is really what we're doing on the source text. When you use machine translation, it always integrates with cut tools. So basically what we do is we take the post-edited, well, the source text that we've been working on, and we process to machine translation, with translation memories when it's available. So we process it in cut tools, and we translate those matches with those percentages, and I'm not sure this is a clear concept to you guys. Basically, these are called matches in cut tools, and they represent the percentage of similarity between the segment that you need to translate and something that is already stored in the database. The higher the percentage, the closer is the segment that you are translating to a segment that you have already translated. and is in the translation memory. So basically, we process these higher percentages from 75 to 100% with translation memory, and this means that we get results where there's a little bit of editing required, but not so much, because the similarity is really high. And the rest, so below 75, we process with machine translation. And this is what we call new matches or new words. The rest is called fuzzy matches. Fuzzy means really similar to what's in the translation memory. So translation memory, pre-translation, machine translation, and of course, with the post-editing. Post-editing comes into play. Yeah, sorry.
Pre-editing, whatever the support, whatever the...
I think you need to speak here.
إلا لاحظتوا هنايا بأنه هادو هما المراحل ديال الترجمة الآلية. سؤالي غادي يكون I'm going to ask you in English. Okay. سؤالي هو أنه في المرحلة ديال بري إديتين، وهذه هي المرحلة المهمة. السؤال غادي يكون هو كما كان لو سيبور، يعني كما كانت الوسيلة فاش جاتني الترجمة، لأنه باش تعطي أي حاجة للآلة خاصها تكون كومباتيبل مع ديك الآلة. هنا فاش غادي نسولوا هذا السؤال، واش اولا بعدا خص يكون عندنا هذاك النص اللي غادي نخدموا عليه، واش في واحد الفورمات معين ولا كما كان الفورما ديالو. So in pre-editing, is it about whatever format, meaning Word text, Excel text, old text on a paper, etc. So whatever the format, is that possible?
So I hope this answers your question. The pre-editing is like language work, right? You do work on the source language to make it better for machine translation. This means that what you do is basically edit the source text in whatever format. Of course, it needs to be a digital format, something that you can edit. It cannot be a scanned certificate of marriage, anything like that. It needs to be converted to something else before, something you can work on with your computer. Hope this answers your question. So post-editing with machine translation feedback. Someone this morning said that it's important to give feedback to whoever is working on the machine translation. With rule-based machine translation, this was, of course, obvious because the engineers would then work and improve the system. But it's also very important with neural machine translation, because if we don't have this kind of collaboration between the linguist and the engineers or whoever is working on the engine, there's no improvement. And then I'm sure you can think, I spend my time working to improve an engine that is replacing my work tomorrow. This is, of course, a very obvious and rightful concern. Usually what we do in order to at least gain some money out of it is we have our customers paying for that because they need to value your time, of course. I'm not sure you are acquainted with the acronym TEP, which means Translation, Editing, and Proofing. This is basically what is asked by the market nowadays. They do want the whole package. They want translation. Someone else needs to do the review. And then, in most cases, there's a final stage of proofreading where you basically work only on the source, on the target text without even considering the source. With machine translation post-editing, we still have these two final steps. So the only step that is replaced is translation. We still have the editing and we still have the proofreading. And this is, of course, for the highest quality projects where full machine translation post-editing is required. Then, of course, we have the QA with automated tools that helps you checking the grammar and the syntax and the consistency with glossary. And then we have any other step like linguistic sign-off, LSO. Basically, this is where you check the translation in its final format. Like after desktop publishing, it's all there, it's in its final shape, and you just check that it can be delivered. We touched upon this morning. These are the issues that you probably will find if you go through a machine translation post-editing project. Wrong words. There were some examples, fun ones this morning about how machine translation is really not able to really grasp the context in many cases. So what happens is that it will translate a word in a bad way. I always think about the word spring, which of course in English is the season, but it could also be like the spring, like the, like the spring. Verbs and nouns are not very well translated by machine translation, not always. I mean, they're always mixed. Sometimes they're mixed. Gender concordance issues, whenever we have that in the source target, is always a challenge for machine translation, of course. And this is less so with neural, but still it's there. Literal translation that doesn't really sound like a human. With neural machine translation, I have to say this is improving, which is not necessarily a good thing because you find yourself with a segment that is very well written. It really sounds good, but then maybe it has a mistake in it, and you don't realize because it really sounds like it's really good. Missing terminology, what machine translation does and what AI in general does, doesn't find the words in the huge database, it just invented. It happened to me. Word order, again, I was listening this morning and I learned that Arabic has some challenges with that, and machine translation is not able to do a good job with that. And of course, syntax. Now, these, of course, when you do post-editing, you have a lot of challenges. And these are the challenges that, of course, are coming from the fact that you're doing post-editing. When we evaluate the projects, the translation delivered by our post-editors, these are the issues that we usually find. The style, over-editing, meaning that the translators invested too much time and too much effort in doing the post-editing. Under-editing, on the contrary, is when there are sentences where you should have spent more time and you just skipped it because you need to go on with other things. Missing words, again, in the case where the target really sounds nice, maybe you just skipped a very important concept or a very important word. Concordance issue, gender, as I said before, sometimes if you have to work quickly, it's easy that you leave something behind you. Grammar and tag. Tag, if you are not acquainted with the concept, are those little marks that are usually in HTML files that indicates, for instance, that that word should be in bold or in italics. Those are called tags. And machine translation is not really good with that, so post-editors, sometimes they just forgot to fix the tagging. Again, SmartCut, if you want to play with it and haven't done so in the past, is a really good playground for starting a use machine translation. So I now do want to go ahead and talk about generative AI. That's my last passion, I would say. It's the last thing that I'm seeing in the market. And you maybe have heard of it. In Italy and in Europe, everybody's heard of ChatGPT. In Italy, it was banned for a period. For 1 month, we couldn't use it. There were some issues with checking the age of the users, so we had to stop it for a while. And I think it's the next thing in localization and in translation. I'm not going too technical because otherwise I will myself fall asleep. I'm just saying that generative AI and ChatGPT refers to artificial intelligence, of course, that is capable of creating new content. And the most famous use cases is where you create text, you create videos, you can create images, and you can even create songs. We've been playing with that since March. And when you have a new tool, a new game, what you do is you start with basic things like one of the most famous use cases is take some instructions and turn it into a poem with rhymes, for instance. Of course, this is just something that is useless, but we had to do that. Like when with machine translation, we tried always with bad words, you know. You start from there and then you build with new things. It's based on artificial intelligence and deep learning, and you can train these models to do many, many different things. It's everywhere, it's in all industries, and of course it also affects our industry. If you think machine translation is a threat, I think this is a bigger threat. In March, I believe I had a very serious conversation in my company, and I told them, look, let's start using it, because otherwise our customers will go away. And in fact, the market was kind of slow this year because of that, because they were really thinking, should we keep doing translation? Should we replace translation with multilingual content generation? I mean, there are use cases where you don't translate, you transcreate, or better, you create in local language. I'm sure you have encountered that as well. And so this is what we are discussing at the moment. So what can you do with generative AI? Again, it's all about productivity, it's about quality, it's about saving money, again. And after fighting 5 years towards our customers and trying to convince our translators and to train them and to make them more productive and to accept machine translation post-editing, we are back to the same starting point, and we are starting again with this. I have to say, though, that there are many pitfalls. We still, as with all AI, these are some of them. It's not able to really grasp language nuances. Still, it's again about also the quantity of data that it has in a given language. It's not really able to grasp cultural content, and for creative translation, it's not good. But what I'm trying to do in my company, what I want to share here today, is that there are different use cases that relates to you as language professionals or as professional in any industry that I think are interesting. Now, I don't see my small notes here, so I have to turn this way. I mentioned source correction, so pre-editing for machine translation. I'm actually, for this very project that I'm working on right now in these days, I'm actually trying both approaches. I'm trying human pre-editing, and I'm trying AI-supported or AI-completed pre-editing. Basically, the task that you give the AI is just the same that you give to a linguist. You tell AI, I need you to improve the syntax, grammar, and word order of this text. Please do it. Now, as with neural machine translation, because of the technology that is behind, there are many, many different challenges. One of them is what is called hallucination. Hallucination means that when the system doesn't know an answer, it just invents it. It makes it up from scratch. So again, you find yourself with a reply, an answer that is really convincing, really good looking, but then maybe it's completely wrong because it's been invented. Other use cases, again, source text correction before MT is what we are doing. I'm not sure if you find yourself in the situation where you needed to basically split a file or a document based on the languages that were in that document. This can be done with machine translation. Again, for this particular client, they sent us like 200 pages Word document with French and Italian in it. And in order to split the languages and create two different documents, one with French, one with Italian, it's been done by the machine. And I think nobody would like to spend his or her own time doing this kind of task. So machine can do that for us. Terminology. When you have to create a terminology list from a source document, you can do that with machine translation, with generative AI. Generate a definition, and for a term, it's here. Basically, you're translating, you don't know a term. What you do now, I guess you don't look up in the dictionary anymore. You would browse this term on Google. With generative AI, it's much quicker to get a reply and a definition for that particular term. So this is a really practical use case. Classification of text. Basically, you feed the text into the generative AI and ask the system what does this text is talking about. Is it technical? Is it legal? Is it medical? Generative AI can do that for you. Language detection is the same as before. It tells you what language the document contains. There are, of course, many different things that are part of the normal, I would say, Translators Day. If you are a translator, you basically are a company, one-man company. You need to do your marketing. You need to send your sales email to customers. You need to have new ideas. If you are on social media, you need to post every now and then to make you visible. And this is really helpful for generative AI. I'm doing a lot of social media activity, and lately I'm using that a lot. It speeds up my posting a lot. Maybe you think it's not so important, but believe me, it saves you a lot of time. A general definition, we already discussed that. Code generation, these systems are also able to generate code like programming. Python, this kind of difficult stuff that I'm not sure what it is, but it works. It's helpful, like for software and so on. E-learning, I'm using that also for creating e-learning materials for our own translators. Many other use cases, I'm not sure how we are with the time. Many other use cases that are close to language can be part of your daily tasks, but are really not your core translation tasks. There's a lot of talking all over the world about inclusive language. Machine translation can fix that. We have gender concordance in Italy. We need to address our audience with inclusive language. We cannot keep talking about men when the target is also comprised of women. So we need to find a way to make it inclusive, and machine translation can really help with that. Marketing review and adapting texts for different audiences. Again, one of the first use cases was explain me atomic energy as if I was a child of 5 years, 5 years old child. And it will do it, because it will use examples that are comprehensible by that kind of audience. This is, of course, a basic task, probably useless, but there's a way to adapt the content to different audiences. You might be willing to talk to medical doctors or to, I don't know, nurses or someone that's just interested in medical stuff. It's different language that you need, because you have experts and less experts. And generative AI can do that as well. I like the generation of the terms because it's in 3 slides now. It's always the same. You can shorten segments. Sometimes you just need the text to be short because it needs to fit in a given format. You can do that as well. Translation and transcription, not easy, not something you get out of the box, not something you get, not something that is ready now, but we are working on it. And content rewriting, I said I put website here, but it's for everything. You have a content you are not happy with, you can rewrite with generative AI. I'm not sure, and I would have wanted to show how it works in practice, but I think it's impossible. Because if any of you is acquainted with ChatGPT, maybe. Raise your hands. Okay, then I'll skip this one, because otherwise it's difficult without showing.
So you cannot make a demonstration?
A demonstration I can do it, but I should go there.
Okay.
If I can go there and...
نشوف واش اوكي ويل سي وذ ذم. اللي بغينا نعرفوا في الحضور واش كاين شي واحد ولكن بعض الاشخاص اللي عمرهم تعاملوا مع الجينيراتيف اي انه طلب من لا ماشين انه تخلق له واحد المحتوى. واش كاينين في القاعه او ما كاينينش؟ يبدو انه عندي تقريبا 4 5 ديال الناس. اوكي. دييغو مستعد انه يدير واحد لا ديمونستراسيون ولكن مع ليكيب ديال الانفورماتيك باش على الاقل يعطيكم هذه المراحل كلها اللي هضرنا عليهم ديال كيفاش تتعامل مع لو كونتوني، لا جينيراسيون دو كونتوني اكسيتيرا. هذاك كلهم كيطلبوا واحد لا ديمونستراسيون. الا كان will it take time?
No, I can do that if it...
No, just for time purpose. Will it take some time?
No.
Okay.
It's just
Okay,
web-based.
just do it. Okay.
We'll try.
Okay.
I need this. I don't need this. I just need this.
Yeah. Okay.
I can speak.
Okay. Yeah. Just use the that mic. Exactly.
Hello? It's work? Okay. Here doesn't work. Doesn't show. See. Sorry. Let's do this. It's another system that you can still do this. Maybe it works. Okay. Hope you can hear me. So if any of you has used ChatGPT, this is just an alternative system. The features are just the same. And basically, what you can do, use it as it was a chat. You can start with something like oh, thank you. I'm not used to this keyboard, so. And of course, it will reply. Of course, you can do more. You can do, please translate this, it will talk with typos as well. This sentence into Arabic. Oh my. Do you have columns? Okay. Okay. The weather is beautiful, and A is missing B. Is it correct? Okay, it's correct. But what you can do is really something more complex. And again, I will need to type. You can tell this system, please act as if you are a professional translator and you are looking at information on this specific topic. As you can see, it's a chat. You can add things as well. I do want to show you something more complicated. If you can hold the mic for a second, I can write. Just as you did before. I need to. Oh, you talk for me, and I do things, okay. Oh, you type for me, okay.
Because you're not used to...
The keyboard is different. So try this one. You are a professional copywriter with good knowledge of English. Sorry, I'm using your... Please create an article on artificial intelligence for translation. It will fix your typos, no, don't worry. No, it will fix it. Yeah, it will understand in any case. For translation. And you press send. And it's created an article with a title, an introduction, some subtopics as well. And if you scroll down, you will see, you should do it like this. It has created a full article on the topic that we have asked it to create. As I said, this is amazing by itself, by the way. As I said, it hallucinates sometimes, meaning that it might have invented things. Fact-checking is one of the most important things when you talk about machine translation in generative AI. I'm not really sure that it's all correct what's in there. We don't have the time to check it, of course. But we can also go on and say, turn this into a shorter post for LinkedIn. And it's basically summarizing it, and it's creating a post that can be published on LinkedIn. Add, sorry? You can even add emoticons. And it does the work for you. What do you want to search? How to? Okay. Please translate, sorry I'm slow, into Arabic. This I cannot check. It understood even. Is it working? Good? Okay. And
Maybe hallucinating, but it's Arabic.
okay. It's hallucinating in Arabic, what she is saying. As you can see, the artificial intelligence is also able to understand the topic of this discussion, and it can go on and proposing additional topics to discuss, like, can you recommend any specific AI-powered translation tools that I can use? And it will give you a list of AI-powered translation tools. DeepL, Microsoft, Google, SDL, Tran, and many more than I knew before. Do you think, Rashid, it's enough to show the... Basically, you can use it as an assistant for your work. It's very good for idea generation. You can ask it, can you suggest 5 topics that are interesting for like translation professionals in Morocco. I didn't do that. Otherwise, my presentation will be more interesting, I guess. But you can do that, of course. Now we go back to the slides. I think we are coming to the end of time allocated for this. Okay. So we don't go back to the slides, and I'm available for any questions.
Yeah. Will you just come and sit here?
Yep.
We'll have the microphone.
Now when you need this.
I speak in Arabic. كما قلت في البداية كنتمنى أن الجلسة تكون تفاعلية بالأساس. هذا ما هو إلا كما كيقولوا نزر قليل مما يمكن أن يقال على الترجمة الآلية واستعمال الذكاء الاصطناعي. للأسف اللغة العربية وبعض اللغات الأخرى مازال ما استوعبتش التكنولوجيا باش تعطيها مصطلحات يعني الجميع يمكن يستعملها. مازال في الإنجليزية غادي تلقى جينيراتيف AI الجميع يستعمل هذا المصطلح. في العربية لقينا عدة ترجمات لهذا المصطلح هذا، وبزاف ديال المصطلحات التقنية اللي مازال ما تعطاتهاش لحد الآن شي مصطلحات، بعض المصطلحات اللي غادي تكون شافية وافية للجميع يمكن أن نستعملها من يعني في جميع البلدان الناطقة باللغة العربية. على كل هذا ليس مشكلنا الآن، ولكن ربما سنعود إلى بعض النقط التي أطرها السيد كريشان في عرضه، والمجال مفتوح لكم لطرح الأسئلة، أو ربما حتى إن بدت لكم بأنها يعني أسئلة لنقول يعني بديهية أو أسئلة يعني تبدأ من الصفر، فهذا لا يهم، لأننا المهم أننا نكتشف هذا المجال ونعتبره بأنه هو حليف للمترجم وليس بالضرورة خصم للمترجم. المجال إذن مفتوح. إذا بغيتوا نحلوا واحد اللائحة ديال المتدخلين، على الأقل نفتحوا لائحة أولى ومن بعد نفتحوا لائحة أخرى. راه بالنسبة للإخوان اللي جالسين على الطاولة ترى عندهم الميكروفونات، ممكن أنه يعطينا غير الاسم ديالو. وبالنسبة للإخوان اللي في الصف الأول ما عندوش ميكروفونات راه كاين الميكروفون المتنقل. So we'll take a list of questions.
Okay.
Of people who, and then we'll answer all those questions
Okay.
in a batch, like 4 questions or 5
Okay.
questions at a time. كل يعني راه امامكم كلكم الميكروفونات على الطاوله، فقط عطنا غير الاسم. عبد الحميد الشرقي. نعم، شكون اخر؟ يحيى.
انا سارسل فاتحه. الله يبارك. انا فاتحه حتى تعطيهم وهو انهى مازال له خمس كلها من فضلك.
اوكي.
تجهز له
محمد العظيمات. اوكي. مصطفى عاشق. صلاح. مصطفى عاشق. مصطفى عاشق. ناخذ الخامس ومن بعد ناخذ مجموعه اخرى. مبارك. إذا تفضل سي عبد الحميد.
إذا تحية مسائية للجميع.
الصوت ما مسموعش للأسف، الصوت ما مسموعش مزيان. غادي نعطيك الميكروفون أحسن. سي الشرقي شكون هو؟
أو
ممكن تتكلم في هذاك الميكروفون نسمعك.
تحية مسائية للجميع. الطالب الباحث عبد الحميد الشرقي، موقع جامعة ابن طفيل القنيطرة. شكر موصول للإخوان على هذا التنظيم الرائع، كما أهنئ الإخوان بمناسبة اليوم العالمي للترجمة الذي يصادف 30 من شتنبر، ومداخلتي ستكون مقتضبة جدا. انطلاقا من المراحل التي قسمها أوغست كونت للتفكير الإنساني، بحيث يعتبر أن الإنسان يمر عبر 3 محطات أساسية: المرحلة الميتافيزيقية، ثم المرحلة اللاهوتية، ثم المرحلة العلمية. لا شك أننا اليوم في هذا اليوم نتحدث عن جديد في الثورة العلمية، ألا وهو الذكاء الاصطناعي. ما يحمله هذا الذكاء الاصطناعي من مساهمات جلية في تقديم خدمة للإنسان. أنطلق من كتاب الدكتور حسان الباهي الذكاء الاصطناعي وتحديات مجتمع المعرفة، حنكة الآلة أمام حكمة العقل، حيث يعتبر أن الذكاء الاصطناعي مهما تمادى ومهما تطور يبقى عاجزا أمام العقل الإنساني. ثم كتابه جدل العقل والأخلاق في العلم، فالعقل الإنساني يبقى دائما هو المتفوق. ثم المسألة الأساسية، وهي المسألة التي تحدث عنها بوريكور من خلال كتابه عن الترجمة، حيث يعتبر أن الترجمة هي أن الذاكرة هي التي تحتفظ بكل المفاهيم والمعارف، ويصفها بعمل الترجمة بعمل الحداد، حيث إذا اختل جزء منه أو إذا اختل
من فضلك
مفهوم.
أستاذ عبد الحميد، هذا الفورما، يعني الشكل ديال هذه الجلسه هذه هو على شكل ورشه. سؤال للخبير،
سؤال
لا ممكن، لانه حتى الوقت ما كيساعدناش.
سؤالي هو على الشكل التالي: إذا في خضم هذا التطور التكنولوجي والرقمي، كيف نحافظ على الهوية الإنسانية، وكيف نضمن استمرارية النص الأصلي عندما نتحدث عن النقل والتحويل وليس التأويل والتفسير والفهم؟ وشكرا جزيلا.
شكرا لك. السيدة وفية، تفضلي من فضلك، سؤال مباشر.
صحيح، شكرا. السلام عليكم. سؤال مباشر بالنسبة للشركة ديالكم كريتيف ووردز، ما هي الأدوات التي تطورها وهل تدعم اللغة العربية؟ السؤال الثاني، مثلا أنا كمترجمة وباحثة في هذا المجال أستعمل بعض من هاد الكاتولز، وأجد صعوبة في تحويل النصوص العربية التي تكون مصورة على شكل PDF صورة إلى الوورد. يعني في هذا يعني مع هذا المشكل، هل تطور شركتكم يعني أدوات أسئلة بالنسبة التي تدعم اللغة العربية؟ وشكرا.
شكرا لك على السؤال. السؤال الثالث، أستاذ محمد العظيمات، قرب من الميكروفون من فضلك.
محمد العظيمات، منسق وحدة الترجمة بمركز الترجمة والتوثيق والنشر والتواصل بالمعهد الملكي للثقافة الأمازيغية. سؤالي سؤال مباشر: سبق وأن دخلت إلى موقع الإلكتروني لشركتكم ووجدت أنكم توفرون خدمات الترجمة من الأمازيغية أو إليها. هل تتوفر شركتكم على أدوات يعني أدمجت اللغة الأمازيغية في طريقة اشتغالها؟ وشكرا.
شكرا لك. سي مصطفى، تفضل.
السلام عليكم. مصطفى عاشق، طالب باحث ومدير مجلة أطرها للترجمة واللغات، دراسة بينية، مترجم تحريري وفوري. سؤالي هو كالتالي: هل الوضع الحالي مع استخدام الذكاء الاصطناعي في الترجمة وضع مريح بالنسبة للمترجمين ولا سيما التحريريين؟ السؤال الثاني: كيف يمكن الخروج من وضع عدم الأمان إلى وضع الأمان في حال اعتماد الذكاء الاصطناعي من قبل الإدارات؟ أقصد بهذا السؤال يعني كيف يمكن أن نطمئن المترجمين أنهم لن يفقدوا وظائفهم؟ شكرا جزيلا.
شكرا لك. سيد مبارك، تفضل.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أولا أود أن أشكر هذه المنظمة بما تقدمه من جهود لخدمة اللغة العربية عموما وللمجتمع في نواحي ومجالات مختلفة. سؤالي أولا هو استفسار لهذه الثلة من العلماء الذين اجتمعوا في هذا المؤتمر، والسؤال الثاني هو للسيد المحاضر. أولا، كما نعرف بأن اللغة العربية في العهد العباسي الأول عصر التدوين امتدت الحضارة العربية بسبب الاهتمام بعلوم اللغة العربية، فنلاحظ عزوف من أبناء اللغة العربية عن فهم واستيعاب المفردات هذه اللغة التي تعتبر ثرية ويحتاج المترجم إلى برامج تأهيل وتدريب، كيف يمكن استيعاب المفردات العربية، كيف يتعامل معها، كيف يفهم محتواها في ظل السياق، ثم ينقلها إلى اللغة الهدف. ففي هذا الزخم للغة العربية لماذا لا يتم تبني مشروع عربي يضم متخصصين وخبراء من اللغة العربية وبقية اللغات للعمل على تطوير وإثراء الموارد في الذكاء الاصطناعي باللغة العربية؟
شكرا أخ
ثانيا،
مبارك.
السؤال للسيد هو: نعرف بأن المترجم هو الهدف الأساسي في الترجمة والجهد يقع على عاتقه، لكن هناك في الفترة الأخيرة عزوف إلى الترجمة الاصطناعية وبخس في الثمن في الأجرة التي تدفع للمترجم. ما هي الإجراءات حسب وجهة نظركم وخبرتكم التي تضمن للمترجمين أقل شيء يعني الحد المتوسط؟ وشكرا.
شكرا لكم على هذه الأسئلة. So, dear Diego, you have very large questions.
Okay. They are
And I
very
guess
large.
you're not going to answer the one about the effort to make of Arabic language a model
I
in
have
terms.
my considerations on that as well,
Okay,
but
you have
we
also-
start with
go
the
ahead,
other
please.
ones. I think number 2 and 3 are kind of more or less the same. In our company, we work with many languages. We make use of third-party technology, meaning that we use software that is already on the market. Some of the tools that I showed, like Phrase, SmartCut, we use these kind of tools, and they are basically language independent. I'm not sure if there are specific challenges for your language. These I'm not really sure, but we don't develop any tool. We use the tools that are on the market. I had a company that I now merged into Creative Words that was doing something else, was collecting data for training these systems, because these systems, they need the data. But this is a different story. I don't want to get there. I'll take number 4, because it's my most favorite topic, about how can we reassure translators. And basically it was around what I was saying this morning about how we keep the industry attractive for translators. I do think that, again, we need to change the narrative. As I showed in the workflow with machine translation, the translation part is just a small part of a bigger workflow and a bigger project. So if we keep talking about just translation, that's really the part that can be replaced by machine, or that could be replaced sooner or later completely by machines. But I do think that language professionals, they can contribute to the language access and to breaking these barriers with many different activities, be it preparing the source for machine translation, be it creating the data to train an engine for doing other things. But language, all these systems like ChatGPT, they're based on natural language. And this means that without people with a very good knowledge of language, there's no way we can use these systems. I do think that we need to reassure them, but we also need to train them on these new technologies and to make them understand that they can contribute in many more ways than just in the translation part. And we should be stopping talking only about translation, but we should more turn into language professionals and language experts. And that was number 4. Number 5, for the speakers, it's on Arabic language, but what I see is happening in Europe, for instance. The European Commission is thinking of creating our own data sets, our own large language models, in order to basically fight back the use of these large language models and these systems that are created in the US, like OpenAI. So I think it's a great opportunity for associations like Ísísco to also start thinking about this, to protect your language and to make sure it's it's protected, and you can also leverage these technologies. And the first one, I didn't get the question. The actual question, I didn't get it. Okay, so that was the last one. Thank you. Well, it's about translators feeling comfortable. No, I don't think we should feel comfortable. I myself, with a company and many employees and many wages to pay, I don't feel comfortable. But I think the only way to address this is just to embrace these technologies and to understand them. If you want to fight the enemy, you need to know him, of course. And that's the only way to go. And there are a lot of opportunities. Some services will disappear. I was explaining at lunch that in our company, like probably 80% or maybe more of the work that we do is machine translation post-editing. 5 years ago, it was probably the other way around. We would do 95% of translation and the rest was post-editing. So it's ever evolving. And this is also why I wanted to talk to you a little bit about generative AI, because it will evolve even more. We shouldn't be reassured. It's challenging, and I think it's also a very big opportunity for us in this industry.
شكرا. So just put your headsets. I'm going to speak Arabic. شكرا لكم على الأسئلة. سنفتح لائحة ثانية للأسئلة وأخيرة حتى لأن الوقت يداهمنا ولا نريد أن نتطفل أكثر من اللازم على إخواننا في الإيسيسكو. لدي فقط سؤال حول المهن الجديدة لمكاتب الترجمة. في هذا الصباح كنت في حديث مع دييغو وقال لي بأنه في مكتب الترجمة الآن العصري في أوروبا لن تجد فقط المهام التي نعرفها جميعا من ما يسمى بمدير المشاريع اللغوية، أي من يتكفل بالمشروع الترجمي، أي يتصل مع الزبون، يحرص على الآجال، يتأكد من أن اللغة المطلوبة هي كذا ثم أتعاب الترجمة إلى آخره. بل هناك مهن أخرى لا علاقة لها بالترجمة ولكن تكون في مكتب الترجمة. مثلا قد يكون في مكتب الترجمة ان ديفلوبر مطور للبرمجيات، ولكن مطور للبرمجيات التي تتعلق بالترجمة. قد يكون هناك من يكون دوره فقط داخل المكتب الترجمة هو جمع البيانات وإعداد قاعدة بيانات خاصة بذلك المكتب حتى لا نعيد تكرار النصوص التي اشتغلنا عليها قبل سنوات. هذا أيضا مهنة أخرى جديدة. هناك أيضا مهن أخرى مثلا هناك من يتكفل بالحلول، إيجاد فقط الحلول سواء تقنية يعني فنية أو حلول لغوية من حيث المصطلحات، من يسهر فقط على وضع لوائح المصطلحات خصوصا الجديدة منها وغير المتداولة. إذن هنا سيأتي سؤالي للسيد دييغو ليحدثنا أكثر عن المهن الجديدة المرافقة لمهنة المترجم داخل مكتب الترجمة. New jobs.
Thank you, Rashid. I would want to show my org chart, but I don't have it with me. It's true what you said, Rashid. In our company, it's 27 people. 9 of them are project managers. So basically, they take care of getting projects in, organizing the teams of translators and reviewers, and delivering back to the customer. And they are also in charge of invoicing. We have linguists, of course, they do revision, and they take care of also creating external teams of linguists when it's needed in order to be more scalable. We have terminologists. They create terminology lists. They work and maintain glossaries. We do have software developers with knowledge of the language industry. We have people now working on using generative AI. We have many different professionals, and again, the training that they got, the education that they got in the translation programs is really important for them to thrive in their positions. There are many different jobs that you all can get that are not just sorry for not only translation. And of course, there's gonna be many more. As I said, if you work with generative AI, you use natural language processing. There's a new job coming out which is called prompt engineering. Basically, the prompt is the command that you type in the chat. And the more the prompt is well written, the more it will work and the better results you will get. We are creating this as well as a professional, which is a translator, a linguist, turning into something new. Basically, someone that is able to interact with the machines. I was thinking of other roles that I have in my own company. Well, we have different departments, marketing, accounting, but that doesn't relate to language, really. We do have someone, though, and Rashid mentioned that is in charge of always looking for new technologies. There are technologies for dubbing, for instance. For instance, this morning we saw something for virtual remote interpretation. There are technologies everywhere, and we want to be, on the forefront. So we have someone dedicated to that. It's a linguist, again, because it has to have the knowledge of what's going on and all the processes, but with, of course, a focus on technology and progress.
Thank you, Diego. Another set of questions for you. I have a set of questions for you. إذن اللائحة الثانية من المتدخلين، والتمس منكم يعني بكل لطف أن توجهوا سؤالا مباشرا. السيد دييغو ليس منظرا في الترجمة، وليس يعني منظرا في الأدوات المساعدة على الترجمة، ولا في الذكاء الاصطناعي، بل هو ممارس. شركته تمارس هذه الأمور، وهو يشرف على فريق تقريبا في 24 مستخدم داخل الشركة، كل يقوم بعمل محدد. السيد الشيخ مولدو بدر، تفضل. قرب لك الميكروفون، تفضل.
السلام عليكم، شكرا جزيلا. دكتور، عندي بعض الأسئلة بما أنكم تتعاملون مع اللغة العربية في الترجمة، وأعتقد أنكم سوف تواجهون مشاكل كثيرة مع هذه اللغة العالمية. هناك من الأساتذة في الصباح أشار إلى مشكلة موضوعية وبعض الأشياء، لكن هناك بعض المشاكل أو بعض الأسباب إيديولوجية داخل المجال لتداول اللغة العربية. مثلا مصطلح اللسانيات linguistics في المناطق العربية هناك من يترجمها باللسانيات وهم أغلبهم مغاربة، ولكن في الشرق هناك من يترجمها باللغويات، وهناك من يترجم أيضا اللسانيات التطبيقية، هم أيضا يقولون اللغويات التطبيقية. التعبيرات السياقية أي جمس، هناك من يقول التعبيرات يعني لا أعرف يعني الكلمة الأخرى، المدونات اللغوية corpus linguistics. هناك من يستخدم المتون اللغوية والمعجمية لكسيكون أو لكسيكولوجي أو لكسيكوغرافي، معجمية، معجماتية، قاموسية. كل هذه الأشياء في المجال للتداول اللغة العربية مشكلة. فأعتقد أنكم في شركتكم إن لم تعتمدوا على متخصصين في اللسانيات في اللغة العربية وبعيدين عن الإيديولوجيات، الاستخدام الإيديولوجي للغة، فأعتقد ستصادفون وستظلون تصادفون نفس المشكلة في المجال اللغة العربية. ومن بين الأخطاء الكثيرة ما أشارت إليها سونيا العاميات والدوارج، لأن مصر وبعض البلدان يستثمرون في ترويج عامياتهم. في كندا، تورنتو، يعني في أي مكان تجد بأن المستخدم في يعني الشبكة العنكبوتية هي العاميات والدوارج، والمغرب عندهم عامية أو دارجة، ومصر كذلك، والأردن كذلك. فالأشياء سوف تتلخبط أو يعني تختلط الأمور، وبالتالي أعتقد أنكم ستحتاجون إلى متخصصين باستخدام اللغة الفصحى وحدها. هذا يعني فيما أعتقد. شكرا جزيلا.
لك بدر. الآن ننتقل لزكريا الرازقي، تفضل.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. طالب بمدرسة الملك فهد العليا للترجمة. أرجو أن يكون صدركم رحبا لتلقي 4 أسئلة وهي مقتضبة صراحة. السؤال الأول: نحن نعلم أن قاعدة البيانات بطبيعة الحال يعني فيما يتعلق بالذكاء الاصطناعي يعني في المحتوى العربي اللغة العربية ضعيفة شيئا ما، وأنا تعاملت كثيرا مع برامج الذكاء الاصطناعي. فهل أستطيع أن أثق في منتوج الذكاء الصناعي أو الاصطناعي لا سيما فيما يتعلق بالترجمة وهي العملية العسيرة المستعصية؟ السؤال الثاني: هل يستطيع الذكاء هل الذكاء الاصطناعي قادر أن يتعامل مع النصوص الأدبية؟ سألت هذا السؤال لأنني بصدد الانكباب على بحث أتعامل فيه يعني مع نصوص أدبية. سؤالي الثالث: وأرجو من الأساتذة ولا سيما المتخصصين فيما هو فلسفي ولساني أن يجيب على هذا السؤال رجاء. ما معنى تنويع المعنى؟ يعني صراحة لم أفهم هذه العبارة، وشكرا جزيلا.
لك شكرا. سي محمد مرشد.
السلام عليكم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. عندي ملاحظة عامة على يعني المؤتمر. بدء أشكر يعني منظمة إيسيسكو على هذا يعني المؤتمر القيم. عندي ملاحظة أنه يعني من خلال العنوان الترجمة وتكنولوجيا الذكاء الاصطناعي يعني هناك يعني نحتاج إلى فريقين، فريق اللسانيين وفريق الحاسوبيين. حبذا لو كانت هناك مداخلات للحاسوبيين. لماذا أقول هذا؟ يعني أنه كالأستاذ رشيد أشرتم إلى بعد مستوى الترجمة للغة العربية، لأن هناك يعني تباعد ما بين اللسانيين والحاسوبيين. أرجع إلى بعض عندي سؤالين للدكتور دييغو. ما هي تخصصات فريق شركتكم؟ يعني قلتم أن الفريق يتكون من 24 مستخدم. ما هي التخصصات؟ السؤال الثاني: ما هي الصعوبات التي وجدتموها في ترجمة النصوص العربية؟ وفي هذا الصدد ماذا تحتاجون إليه من الناحية اللغوية والحاسوبية؟ شكرا.
لك سي مرشد. سيد سعيد الأطرش، تفضل.
السلام عليكم أستاذ دييغو، نشكركم على هذا التدخل. سؤالي هو سأعرض عليكم عبارة أتمنى من المشرفين على الترجمة أن يحاولوا إيصالها، وأريد معرفة ماذا وصلكم من معنى عام. العبارة هي بعد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم: والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. صدق الله العظيم. شكرا.
بالله عليك السيد الأطرش، هل هذه عبارة أم صورة آية من القرآن؟ إذا لا تطلب من السيد دييغو أن يعطيك معنى من معاني القرآن الكريم. هذه المسألة الأولى. ثانيا، ترجمت معاني القرآن الكريم إلى عدة لغات، وما عليك إلا أن تطلع عليها في اللغة التي تريد. أنا كما قلت النقاش التنظيري الفلسفي كان مجاله هذا الصباح، واستمعنا إلى أساتذة نظروا واستعرضوا أمامنا مختلف النظريات ومختلف الأفكار التي تحيط الآن بمجال الترجمة، وخصوصا أدوات المساعدة على الترجمة الآلية. شكرا لك. حسن أرقاص، تفضل.
السلام عليكم. شكرا على هذا المؤتمر القيم. My question is twofold. First, in your presentation, when you were talking about in your presentation, when you were talking about machine translation, you talked about at the same time about over editing, under editing, and under editing. This is true, but is there any happy mean between these two extremes? Could they come close to each other, which means a better result? And could it be the work of the machine or of man? Because now we don't know who relies on the other, because the man creates the machine, but the man depends on the machine. And the other question is, the other part of the question is, relates to this dependency of man on the machine. Because since the earliest technologies, we see that the technology is excluding man and workman force, I mean. And now with these new technologies, it's the same thing, because the work of the translator, the initial or the initial work of the translator is to be able to be capable of languages, the languages of translation, the source language or target language, grammar, all levels of even the cultural background of language, and yes. But now we notice that there is a big dependency or a trend towards a dependency or total dependency in term by man on the machine, which means that the man could not be a translator without a machine in the future. Thank you.
شكرا لكم، شكرا على كل واضعي الأسئلة. ونعطي الآن الفرصة للسيد دييغو ليجيب على الأسئلة التي تدخل في مجال اختصاصي. تفضل.
Can you hear me? Okay. So I took some notes, hopefully I took them all. First question, issues with Arabic, and this also again answers another one. I don't do translation myself in my company, so I cannot answer any question that is related to any specific language, not even Italian. I used to be translators, did that for 3 months, and then I moved to other roles. So I'm really sorry, but I cannot really say anything on specific problems with Arabic and machine translation. What I can say about the second part of the first question is that whenever we're asked for any language that we know has some variants, as you have in Arabic, we always ask the customer to tell us which variants we should use. This happens with French, French-Canadian, even in Italy we have Swiss-Italian as well. And to answer the question even more, we usually translate into modern standard Arabic. This I'm pretty sure of because I'm more on the customer side. The gentleman, the only one I remember because I saw you talking, asked about how to, if it's possible to use machine translation for literary text. Again, it's very much language dependent. It's very much based on what you mean by literary. I don't see it happening for novels. I don't see we will be able to translate The Lord of the Rings with a machine very soon. But there are books that, in my opinion, can be translated with machine translation and then post-edited, and this will absolutely speed up things. We did something in our company on that. The only book we ever translated was about machine translation, and we translated it with machine translation. It seemed a good idea back then. Can you trust AI for translation? Well, no. if we talk, when I think AI, I think these new systems, DeepL and Google Translate even, they are neural translation system, but they're based on corpus. So what I'm trying to say is that they still are to be checked. They are as good as the data that they were fed with, so, but still they are to be checked afterwards. They can be biased, they can create or translate things that don't exist, so they do need to be checked. You cannot trust AI for translation. As I was showing, you cannot even trust AI for content generation. It simply needs fact-checking and everything. Number 3 was, what is the specialty of Creative Words? What do? We do language work in many different meanings. We do translation, interpreting, but again, I'm not involved in the language, so I'm not able to reply on the main difficulties with Arabic. I'm so sorry for that. Then we have the last one, I guess. And the last one is how to find a happy mean between over-editing and under-editing. Can it be done by the machine, or should it be the man doing that? I believe it's to be done by the men, the humans, and I think it comes with experience. But also I want to add that it really depends on the time. So when do you find this happy mean that you were asking about? When you are end of the day and you deliver a good volume of words that make your life sustainable. And this is really, I think, what you should base your decision on. Should I edit a sentence too much or not, based on the productivity that you gain out of using the machine translation? I know it's very practical, less philosophical, but this is what we do. I mean, this is my work. So there's no rule for that. I mean, sometimes there are instructions from customers telling you exactly, please only fix terminology when it's completely wrong. Please only fix syntax. Don't even bother about checking the style. That's also useful, of course. But yeah, I mean, it comes with practice, and it comes with finding a balance between what you're paid for and the quality that the customer wants. The last one, I'm not sure was a question or more a reflection. I think we depend on each other. We machines depend on humans, and we can use machines. I don't think we depend on machines, but we can work with machines and find, again, maybe an happy balance and work with them. That would be my answer. But I don't think we really depend on them. We shouldn't, by the way.
شكرا جزيلا. في ختام هذا اليوم الحافل، أنا متأكد من أن قسم اللغة العربية هنا بمنظمة العالم الإسلامي للتربية والعلوم والثقافة، وأيضا مركز الترجمة بها، سيحرصان بالتأكيد على إخراج هذا المؤتمر في شكل كتيب سيكون متاحا للدارسين ولمن يريدون أن يطلعوا على مخرجات وخلاصات هذا اليوم الأول الذي نتمنى أن لا يكون المبادرة الأولى والأخيرة، بل أن يستمر ولو على الأقل للاحتفال باليوم العالمي للترجمة. ونتمنى نحن في جمعية التاج مستعدون لنكون شركاء دائما للإيسيسكو مع شركاء آخرين لإنجاح مثل هذه التظاهرات. في الأخير أقول 3 نقط رئيسية. الآلة هي ستساعد الإنسان وليست خصما له. نحن هنا لنكون حلفاء للتكنولوجيا الجديدة ولا نرى فيها خصما أو تهديدا لأي عمل كان، لأنه كما قيل في إحدى عروض هذا الصباح، في جميع، وربما هذا قاله الأستاذ بن عبد الله، في جميع المهن هناك مزاحمة الآلة للإنسان. وقد رأينا الصورة التي عرضها الدكتور مراد زروق من فيلم شارلي شابلين، التي تبين كيف أن الإنسان كان دائما في صراع مع الآلة منذ أن اخترعها الإنسان بنفسه. المسألة الثانية هو أن نحن المترجمين وطلبة الترجمة، وأنا أحيي طالب مدرسة فهد التي طرح السؤال والذي طرح بعض الأسئلة المهمة، ولكن للأسف لم يكن مجالا لنخوض فيها نظرا ل كما قلت هذه الورشة لا تتسع لمثل هذه الأسئلة، ولكن أحيي التراجمة وطلبة الترجمة وأدعوهم لإغناء قاعدة بيانات اللغة العربية على المنصات الموجودة على الإنترنت، وخصوصا تلك التي عرفت من خلال استعمالنا لها بالجدية وبخاصية دعوة المترجمين لاقتراح حلول أفضل للترجمات التي تقدمها لهم. أشكر جميع الأساتذة الذين تناوبوا على هذه المنصة، كل تناول الموضوع من وجهة نظره ومن جانب. أنا أخذت التوصية التي جاءت على لسان أحد المتدخلين في هذه الجلسة الذي قال كان علينا أن نأتي باللسانيين والحيسوبيين. نعم، لأن هذه مهنة نحتاج فيها إلى مطوري برامج الكمبيوتر، ومطوري برامج الكمبيوتر سيكونون بالتأكيد لهم مكان في مكاتب الترجمة في المستقبل. شكرا لكم، شكرا دييغو، وأعطي الكلمة الختامية للأستاذ الدكتور إسماعيلي العلوي من الإيسيسكو لبعض التوجيهات.
شكرا جزيلا، شكرا لكل من حاضر وحضر وشارك وتفاعل في هذا المؤتمر الدولي المهم حول الترجمة وتكنولوجيا الذكاء الاصطناعي احتفاء باليوم العالمي للترجمة. فقط كلمة توجيهية بالنسبة للحضور والمشاركة، فلقد تلقينا لائحة من طرف التاج وقد أعدت لهم شواهد المشاركة والحضور معنا، سنوزعها عليهم الآن، وهي شواهد ورقية. بالنسبة لجميع المشاركين معنا وللحضور لمن سجلوا بياناتهم سنعد لهم أيضا شهادة وسترسل إليهم موقعة ومختومة من قبل الإيسيسكو ومن قبل جمعية التاج، سترسل لهم عبر الإيميل أو البريد الإلكتروني الذين سجلوه، وخاصة لمن حضر في الحصة الصباحية وأيضا في الحصة المسائية. الآن سنعمل على توزيع الشواهد الموجودين معنا مع أسمائهم، والبقاء من فضلكم نوزع الشهادة والبقاء إلى حين ننهي جميع الشواهد، ثم نأخذ صورة جماعية تذكارية بشواهدنا هكذا حتى يعني تكون تذكارا للإيسيسكو وللتاج ولجميع الحضور. وشكرا جزيلا.